think I'm live. I think everything's going. Yep, 7 seconds in. I'm just gonna dip a note. Right here I got a storm in the background too. Rain hitting the roof. Got my nerd glasses on today. Welcome to Fiddle Jam live session number 2 in the series. I hope you all are well. Maybe you got a chance to see the first one. Where the first one we hit E blues stuff, mostly on a beginner level, and got some feedback from a number of people. One asking for G major, which is interesting because that's their most used bluegrass style or key. And last week I did the E minor because it's the most used rock and roll key, because the guitar has the guitar over there is E is its bottom note, and it's often the key of E the guitar players go for. So, but interestingly, must be divine inspiration, but G major is related to E minor. Now, if you're a classically trained violinist, you'd already know this. If you know your music theory or music know-how. What do I mean by that, though, for those of you who don't? Well, it just so happens that most people know the G major scale on the violin. Open 1, 2, 3. It's a high 2, and the 3 is close fingering, and next string open 1, high 2, and 3. Now we talked about easy zones. That's an easy zone too, and that's actually featured in the Fiddle Jam book as one of the easy zones. It's G major. Now, if you played the violin from the beginning, you probably learned it right away, pretty early on. But there's a cooler version than the straight old major scale, which is fairly boring. Do, re, mi. Admittedly, that doesn't sound that hip, does it? You can play some good things with it, but you can make it cooler if you skip a couple notes. So what we do to make the major scale cooler is we'll skip the 4th note and we'll skip the 7th note. No fingers for that? Let's see. 7th note and the 4th note. So that means each note's going to be numbered. Not finger numbers, but each note's going to be numbered. The first note's going to be called note number 1, which of course is open G. The second note of the scale, first finger, is 2, and then the 3rd note, skip the 4th note. So we're going to skip that 3rd finger on the G string. So far. And then on the next string, after we skip the 4th note, the 5th note is open D, the 6th note, and then that 2nd finger we're going to skip, that's the 7th note, and of course we can use 8. This is called major pentatonic, by the way. It's kind of cool sounding. Listen to it. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's the major scale? Yeah, just with a couple notes skipped. Now here's the magic rub that relates to last week. The E blues we did last time, 2 weeks ago actually, because I had COVID 1 week, which I'm recovering from still. Actually tested positive this morning still, but I feel okay. So, E blues is E, G, A, B, D, anywhere in the violin. E, G, A, B, D, 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 anywhere in the violin. Of course, now there's certain spots that are easy. The easy zone we learned last week, open 1, 3, and the next string, open 1, 3. Now, but if you paid attention, E, G, A, B, D is exactly the same letters that we just played in the G major pentatonic scale, skipping that 4th note and the 7th note. G, A, B, D, E. It's just a different order. So the E minor blues that we learned last time, that we used last time, and the G major blues, some people call it, the G major pentatonic, are actually the same exact notes, just with a different tonic note. So last week it was E, the E was the main note, the fundamental, and here's a little of that. Sounds finished. And here's the G major pentatonic. actually the same exact notes. Now, since it's the same exact letter names, that means that our easy zone from last time can also apply to the G. Check it out. We don't have to start on a G to jam, right? It's open 1, 3. Ring a bell? Open A is one of those E, G, A, B, D. B is one of the E, G, A, B, D. And of course D. Same exact easy zone, except G will be your tonic. So, hey, isn't that interesting that the person wanted G? It's actually what we covered last week, just with a different twist. All right, so now let's do some call and answer. First, mess around with that. Let's go over that. So we'll expand the easy zone, open 1, 3, open 1, 3. On the D and A string, same thing, but with G as your tonic, third finger. But let's go on the G string a little bit this time, too. So open 1, 2. And then open 1, 3. And open 1, 3. We won't worry about the E string for right now. So, copy me. I'll call, you answer, just like last time. You. Me. That's first finger. Try your best. Next. That's 2. Good. Start from that note. Open. 1. Open. You work your bow. Good. Now bow working. Keep everything loose. Keep your wrist loose. Keep your shoulder loose. Remember to stay loose and breathe. All right, let's continue. That's on the D string. G. G. A. B. A. G. A, B, then E, D. So a little trickier there. If you're not getting it all, it's okay. I'd say the best thing to practice, if you're not getting exactly just like me, is to try and get the rhythm just like me, the best you can. Even if you make up some other notes, that's okay, because really what this is doing is training you to jam or improvise. And as I've said a million times before in all kinds of other videos and last week, we're really trying to get you to listen internally out of your chest. There's actually a little brain in your heart, they found out, which is kind of pretty cool. And you want to listen there. You can even imagine yourself listening there, like ears down here if you want. So at least in time, try and hear the rhythm and copy the rhythm at least. So there's some G major pentatonic stuff. Now, if you remember on the E blue stuff last time, we also threw in a B flat. It was like the blue note. Remember that if you were on it? It's kind of a sassy note, right? That same exact trick can be added to the G major pentatonic. Some people then call this the major blues, and the E one would be the minor blues. The terminology can be mixed around a little bit. I call it a major pentatonic scale with a blue note mixed in. So, same B flat. There's one down here, low 2. Slide it up to 2. Open, 1, 3. Open, slide, 3. You can slide either direction. Most of the time up, though. So let's do a little bit of call and answer with the B flat note in the key of G. So there's thunder. I don't know if you're hearing that. It's kind of a storm in the area here in Florida. So that was that 1, slide, then, try that again. U. Try this. D. Slide, D, slide, E, slide. G, slide, D, G. I like that one. Up in the A string. Slide down, 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 down. Getting the idea? This actually makes the boring old G major scale suddenly kind of hip. This is a different note that it ends and starts in your tonic note than the E blues stuff, but related. They're cousins. They share the same DNA. All right. So I hope that helps a little bit. Now, through the comments, I realized that there's different audiences that that's going to listen to these things, and some are more advanced, some are more beginning. Seems like most people are leaning towards the more of the beginning side, but I decided that just like my materials on the website, I have what's called the ORSH method that I've kind of made that term up. I kind of like it. It's a One Room SchoolHouse. ORSH, O-R-S-H, ORSH, One Room SchoolHouse. Now, as I've told the story before, my own mother, who's in her 80s, went to a one-room schoolhouse, and she always said how it was kind of cool that she could, if she was in second grade, listen to the fifth grade stuff at the same time. In the room, she was maybe doing some second grade homework, but she could kind of keep one ear on the fifth grade and know at least what she's going to be learning and kind of get a head start on it. It probably helps. In the same way, I tried to adopt that into a lot of my materials on the website, where I'll be teaching one concept, but I'll give you a hint or a hip, a little tricks. Is like, this is where how this is going to be used. This is where it's heads. So even if the next thing I'm going to cover here is a little advanced for you, you can listen along if you like, and maybe try, and you'll kind of go, oh, maybe next year I'll be ready for that. But I get it. I remember hearing that. So one of the tunes that gets worked on when people get into jazz, which is a little more of an advanced style often, is All of Me. The famous song from the 1920s, I think it was written. All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see, I'm no good without you. It goes on and on. It's kind of a moaning blues lyric. All right? So I've actually done this and recorded it as a blues song, because it's, take my lips, I'll never use them. Take my arms, I'll never, I don't need them, kind of thing. That's a blues lyric if you ever ask me. But anyways, All of Me. It's a great practice learning song for if you want to get into jazz or a little more advanced harmonic things, because it's got a set number of chords, and it forces you that you can't just jam in one key, in one scale in this one. Like the Fiddle Jam stuff in the book, in the first book, I made sure that everybody could just zone out and jam using one easy zone fingering and go nuts and not have to think about it too hard, because thinking is the enemy. But when you get to the advanced things, you need to be able to not think so hard and know your stuff at the same time. So there's other levels to these improvisation stuff. And All of Me is a great practice song because every chord, at least for more than half the song, is 2 bars each. Now, a lot of jazz songs, they change every couple beats and everything's moving around fast and you gotta, be quick on your toes. But All of Me is not only a fun song, it's got these stretched out chord changes. And you just learn the first 4 we'll focus on today. So I don't have a whiteboard here. We need to get that for these things. But the first chord in the key we're learning it in is C. C major 7. Now what does that mean? C, M-A-J, 7. All right? And when the M-A-J is in there with the number, the 7 in this case, it means it's going to be a major 7th in the chord. So C stands for major triad. Now you might know some of this stuff. That means the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of the C major scale. So C major scale. The first note, third note, fifth note, C, E, G. But now when it's got a 7th in it, it means there's, a fourth note in there. And it's going to be C, E, G, and C would be the 8, and a half step behind it is the 7. That 7th, a bit clanky, but mixed in with the other notes, kind of pretty in a way. I'm making up whatever fingering I can here. The violin's not a great chordal instrument, but so what do you do with this? So now, if C major 7th, as all those notes are from the C major scale, so can you jam just using the C major scale? Yes, on the first chord for the first 2 bars. So, all of me. But even that's a little much for a lot of people to begin with. So let's start simpler. Let's use just the notes in a certain zone on the fingerboard of just the chord tone. So C, E, and G. See, that's the melody. So let's mess around with that. Copy me. Da, 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 da. Call and answer. You. Try it. Another one. So you can't go wrong with notes that are in the chord, of course. Now, all the other notes, they can connect and make it sound interesting, but start out with just notes in the chord. So that would be 2 measures worth. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the chord changes, and so does the scale. This is where people go, oh my God, I'm lost already, right? But don't get too lost. The second chord is E7. There's another number thing. So when there's a capital letter E, that means it's the E major triad. And if there's a 7 without the M-A-J word in there, it means there's a lowered 7th. It means it's going to be the D. It's going to be a whole step down from the octave. That's how I think of it. So if you know the E major scale, we're going to go 1, 3, 5. That's E, G sharp, B. And instead of the octave, instead of the 7th, we're going to lower it or flat it. That's E, G sharp, B, and D. So the first note, the first chord rather, is C, E. And you can really hear the differences, can't you? All of a sudden, the first chord had a G in it, and then the second chord has a G sharp in it. When things raise or lower by a half step, that's the juicy stuff you want to go for in jazz. So those are the things that draw interest. Even if a person doesn't know what they're hearing, it's like, oh, it's interesting. It's like things pull one way or the other. Did you hear what I just did? C, E. I went B, G sharp, E, down the triad, and I used the 7th down the octave below. And we're kind of in one little area on the A and D strings, aren't we? So try it again. C. Make up some stuff. 1, 2, a C. Here we go now. E. So we got another half-step motion from the C to the B. And we have a half-step motion from the G of the C chord to G sharp in the E chord. That's the juice. That's the interesting stuff. Aim for those half-step movements, and you'll sound interesting. I'll go out of the range. Don't try and copy me for a second, but. jam over the first 3 chords. You can kind of hear the chord change, even though they don't have a guitar here or a track playing. When you pull those half steps that are changed from one chord to the next, it brings interest. So we got C, E7. The 3rd chord is A7. So A you're probably familiar with, most violinists are. A, C sharp, and E is the triad, 1, 3, 5. All right, and that 7th, there's no M-A-J word in there. That's the secret handshake. If it's just A with this number 7, when there's a number, it means it's always going to be the flatted 7th in the chord. All right, so what is that flatted 7th? The number of the 7th is G sharp, but we're going to lower it. Some people call this a dominant 7th. It's way more common than the major 7ths, believe it or not. So we got A, C sharp, E's, and G's. Now let's put it in that same range on the A and the D string. So we got A, C sharp, it's still in that same range, G, E. We can mix them up in any order we want. So jam around with that A, G, E, mess around E and G, A, C sharp. You get the hang of A7 in that one little pattern? Cool. So let's review. C. Let's try that again. E. G sharp. Now the A. C sharp. A, G, E. So you get the hang of it? So there's these little patterns. They're not necessarily easy zones, but if you're sharp, you can kind of figure it out. Okay, this is the stuff I can mess around with in C. Okay, now I can mess around with E7 and then A7. So the next chord, and we'll stop there, is D minor 7th. Now D little m is D minor. So we all know D major, one of the first scales we ever learned in the violin. Minor means we lower the 3rd note. So as a triad, first note, the lowered 3rd, and the A, the 5th. And D, little m, and 7. 7 means there's no M-A-J attached to it or any other words. That means it's going to be a lowered 7th on this one as well, even though it's a minor chord. So C sharp is the normal 7th, and C natural would be the lowered 7th. D, F, A, C. Mess around with it. D. So you have the first 4 chords now. Let's do something with them. So you can hear, if you don't copy me exactly, it's all right. C. You try. E7. You. A7. D minor. You. You hear those little twists and turns in there, half-step motions? So C drops to B, and the G raises the G sharp. A goes C sharp, which reminisces to the C way back 2 chords ago. We hear more than 1 chord away sometimes. A, back to G, instead of G sharp. And the D minor drops the C to the C natural. The C sharp to C natural. And it's an F, which is a half step away from the E. This is the stuff I lean on as a professional improviser. Half steps are the most important ones to learn, I think. Sometimes you can work with common tones, like when the note is the same from chord to chord. You can nail that too, add that to your arsenal. So let me do a quick solo, and I'll try and call out the chords at the same time. You don't have to do it like me at this point, so you can hear what's going on. C, E, A, D minor, E7, A minor, D, G7, C, E, A7, D minor, F major, F minor, E minor, A, B minor, G7, C. All right, so a bunch of them move a little faster at the end there. And I'm not expecting you to know all of it, but if you notice, there was some of the same chords get reused in this song. That's why it's a great study piece. So you can come around. The second half starts out exactly the same, and you got 2 measures to mess up before it goes to the next chord. So I hope that gives you an idea of where we can go with these live sessions. We'll do some more beginning material and maybe a little bit more advanced to the second half. Let me know what you in the comments whether you think you like that approach. I kind of do, but we don't have to do it that way. And this will definitely be based on comments and questions people send me, and we'll just go like that. And I'll try to do it each week. Again, the weather threatened in this particular building. The roof is quite noisy. Hope the popcorn and the raindrops dropping from the trees didn't bug you too bad. Let me know if it does, and I'll make sure maybe to watch for the weather, and maybe that's the ones I'll pre-record or something when I know the weather's going to be bad. But here we are another Wednesday night. Hopefully my COVID will go away finally, and hopefully everybody else out there is healthy and happy, and we'll jam together another time. All right? All right. Cheers. Talk to you next time.